Alright guys, this is your DIY video talking about TEK 7.2a, and we're going to focus on the previous knowledge because you need to be familiar with rational numbers. Fractions are rational numbers, but you also need to be familiar with converting a fraction to a decimal to a percent. So let's start off with 1/8 on this video and talk about how we can go from 1/8 to a decimal. Well, we do that by dividing. And if you watched Miss Meadows' video over the steps, you can use those notes right now, or you can watch what I do. So I have the fraction 1/8, and I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide 1 divided by 8, because that line in the fraction also means divided by. I can also look at it at 1 divided by 8 if you're punching in the calculator, which hopefully one day you get to use. But for now, we have to do it the old-fashioned way. We have to divide. We have to say 1 divided by 8. And you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, that will not work. Well, it will work because we're going to add a decimal and shoot it straight up to the top because we have to keep it lined up and put a couple of zeros behind there. Will 8 go into 1? No, it will not go into 1. 0 times. Bring down the 0. Will 8 go into 10? Why, yes, it will. 1 time minus 8. 8 go into 20. 2 times. Leaving 4. I'm going to keep adding zeros until I see a pattern, or I can stop. So now I can stop because 8 will go into 40 5 times, leaving a remainder of 0. So it gives me an answer of 0.125. And the proper way to say that is 125 thousandths. So if you're not sure what place value is or what number is in what place value, I suggest that maybe you ask for a workshop over place value because that's something that will help you out in doing conversions. Now, we're going from decimal to percent. The easiest way to do that is to know that we can move the decimal point 2 times to the right, and I can do that because I'm multiplying by 100, and pop the percent sign behind there. So 1/8 is actually 12.5%. 12.5% is 1/8. Pretty easy stuff. I'm going to tell you that. If you want me to prove why you move the decimal 2 times to the right, please ask for a workshop on that and we can talk about it more. Now for the next one, we have a -1/6. Note that this is less than 0, so it's not even a whole. And my answer when I go to decimal is going to be negative. So first things first, let's put the negative sign in our answer so we don't forget that. We have a -1 divided by 6. You may not have gotten to this yet, but a negative divided by a positive is a negative. We'll talk more about that later in the project. Trust me for now. We're going to do the exact same concept. We're going to say 1 divided by 6. Keep in mind that my answer is negative, so I'm just going to go with the numbers right now. I was just going to work it out and not make the video so long. Oh, hello people. I'm pausing now. It's still going. All right, so I tried to pause, but I think you heard a little commotion. I started doing the division on this one, and I want you to note the pattern here. We have, here's where I am. 6 times 6 is 36. 4, 0, here we go. 40 again. Here we go. I'm put another 6 up here. All right, and I can keep going. Oops, I can keep going like this forever. That is what the bar notation is. So we don't keep going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. We just stop, and we can say 0.16 with the 6 repeating. That's what bar notation is. That's what it indicates. So when you see that, That means that it keeps going and going and going and going. Now, let's go from decimal to percent. Once again, we're going to move the decimal 2 times to the right, and you may say to yourself, you may say self, but I don't know what to do. All right, well, I told you that the 6 is repeating, so that really means that we have negative 0.166666666, keeps going on and on and on forever. We're going to move that decimal 2 times to the right and pop it in right there. So now we have 16.666666666. So my answer is negative 16.6 repeating percent. Yes, you can have a negative percent. It's called a loss. Okay? My checking account looks like a loss most months. All right, I'm going to try to pause the video again. All right, so this is the last part of the DIY, and we're going from decimal as a fraction to a percent, and the fraction needs to be in simplest form. So, once again, if that place value, if you know the place value, going to a fraction is pretty easy here. We have negative 1/10 because the 1 is in the 10th spot. That's all it is to it. Decimal to percent, we have negative 0.1. We are going to move the decimal 2 times to the right. Boom. Nothing's in that hole. We have to fill it with something, so we're going to put a 0 in there. So that means that I have negative 10%. Pretty easy. Negative 3 repeating. Now, this is one we need to talk about a little bit because it's interesting. Because negative 3 repeating is 1/3. I can prove it to you going the other way. If you say 3 will go into 1 how many times, and you do the math, you will see that you will have a pattern of 0.33333. And you can keep going. So that's where it comes from. Pretty much, there is a why. We can do a workshop, or you can ask Miss Gesh why. 0.3 repeating is 1/3, and she can explain it to you. But you need to memorize this fraction. You need to know that 1/3 is 0.3 repeating. Going to percent, it's pretty easy because I have 0.3333333 and it keeps going. So, move the decimal 2 times to the right, and I'm looking at 33.3 repeating percent, or I can say 33 1/3%, just like that. Simple as that. Last one, and then you can try to attempt your evidence or ask for a workshop if you still don't understand. We have 3 25 1/1000ths. 3 25 1/1000ths. So I'm going to go to fraction. This is saying, if you know your place value, it's pretty easy. Place value, place value, place value. I have 3 wholes and 25 100ths of a fraction. I need my answers in simplest form. I can simplify 25 100ths by dividing by the greatest common factor, which is 25 in this case, top and bottom, and I get 1/4. So this answer in simplest form is 3 1/4. Going to percent, once again, I have 3.25. Move the decimal 2 times to the right because I'm actually multiplying by 100, but just if we remember that, it will make our lives a lot easier. I'm looking at 325%. Now you may say, oh my gosh, you can't have more than 100%. Why, sure you can. Right here we have 325%. It's called markup, people. You think Abercrombie and Finch does not make a profit? They're probably charging you 325% profit. That's what they're making every time they sell you a pair of those fancy jeans. So I hope this DIY helped you. Ask for a workshop if it did not, and we'll be talking to you soon.